In this and the couple of videos to follow, we're going to take a closer look at the development costs and the construction costs for a typical house build using the tools that are available within the Sirca cash flow model. So let's make a start. If we just click on the main section button there, it takes us through to our contents page, and this is starting to look familiar now. These are some of the areas that we've already looked at in previous videos, and we finished off by just taking a look at the development timing and the Gantt chart that's built into the model and how that feeds through to the cash flow. So let's go back to our development outline and just remind ourselves that we had chosen a detached house of medium size and of average quality from the options that are available. We then went through by reference to these toggle buttons. We went to the next stage. We considered the market value of the completed project, and we used the online research tools in order to help us arrive at the market value. And then we looked down here. We could see how the market value was then subdivided up into the project itself in terms of the development costs, an allowance here for developers' profit, and then the result was an amount left over for the land acquisition budget. So the line that we've talked about that we haven't looked at in great detail is this development costs section. So if we just hover over that and just click on that, it will take us through to a development summary. So first of all, we can see that this is the figure that we were looking at, and so this is the summary, and this is how that figure is then subdivided down into its component parts. We can see here that we have our building works, and then this is further subdivided down based on the database within Sirca, based on the choices in the outline that we made on the type and size of property. And this is subdivided down so that it helps the model allocate these costs into the development timing, because that's important for us to then have a reference point for allocating interest as and when money is expended on different sections of the project. So then if we just scroll down, we can take a look at these are all the different types of development costs that are in the model and that we can edit. And this is called a risk allowance, and it's commonly known as a contingency. And we have an allowance for inflation, and then some of our VAT is also given its own section, which we'll look at in another video. So the format of this particular cost summary is based on the RICS new rules of measurement. So if we just go onto the internet now and take so we've carried out an online search for RICS new rules of measurement, and one of the pages that we can look at from the search is the RICS's book section. And we can see that there is a publication. It's a book. It's called the RICS New Rules of Measurement, and its same subtitle is the Order of Cost Estimating and Elemental Cost Planning. So this particular set of guidance from the RICS is all about the initial estimating for a project. And helping to put together a set of guidance notes on how to arrive at an estimate. So let's just go back to our model. So all of these costs here have been allocated by reference to the guidance of that publication. So let's just go back to our summary section here. And we can see that all of the sections that we haven't looked at yet in any great detail, we can click on all of these and it will take us through to the underlying data that makes them up. So let's do that. Let's just take a quick run through some of the sections and we'll go to the planning to start off with, and we can see that there are various costs and options here that we can highlight, and these help us to arrive at an allowance for planning. And then we can use the toggle buttons here. If we go to the next section, we can see that we can consider how we arrive at the development costs and construction costs in terms of financing them and the interest charges. And then if we go through again to the next section, we can see that we have a section for professional fees, which we have touched upon. So these are a set of costs here that we can look at, and then we can either look at accepting the Sirca suggestions for those costs, or we can enter our own estimates in these grey boxes here, which will then override the Sirca database. And if we move on, we can see that we have additional costs for building control and local authority. And this is a new line here that's been put into the model called the community infrastructure levy, and we'll talk about that in one of the next couple of videos. But it's effectively a new charge that's been levied by councils across the country in order to help them to raise funds for paying for infrastructure or contributions to infrastructure as a result of new developments. If we go through again to the next section, so this section here is looking at the work that might be needed to help preparation for construction. So these are the types of things that you might consider as professional fees and work that you might need to carry out before design work is carried out, and other ancillary costs to help the project to be successful once it gets on to the building stage. If we go on, we can see that this is one of the major sections of the model. So this is the construction, where all the construction estimating is carried out, and we can see that we can choose the different types of procurement options that are available. We can choose whether we want a timber frame or a traditional brick and block, and then this section here allows us to adjust the rates according to where your particular project happens to be. So the inbuilt database of costs have a set of options that adjust for location factor. And then we have over here we can see we have other costs that we can update and adjust. And if we just take a look at the arrows here, we can see that we can then follow these through to further underline information and data. So if we take a look through to the next section, so this is the developer's profit, one of the biggest sections of costs. We can see here that this number here has been allowed for here, and this is the summary page for developer's profit. If we go through again, so once a project is completed, we have to make an allowance for selling the property, and so this section here takes account of some of the costs that may be involved in selling the completed project. And then if we go on to the next section, so this is the land finance section. So these are some of the costs and the interest costs that we may incur in financing the land acquisition and holding the land during a period of development until the project is finished. And then once we've purchased our land, there'll be some ancillary costs such as stamp duty and legal fees, and then any kind of survey work, and then there'll be an element of cost for actually holding the land during the stages between buying the land and any actual works starting. And that's pretty much leads us back to our residual land valuation, which then takes us through to our final stage, which is the construction elemental costs, where we started from today. So that's a very quick run through of some of the sections, and we'll cover some of the details of these in other videos. So for now, let's just go back to our model, and we'll leave things there for today.